Like most of you, the only Olympics breakdancing action I saw was Rachael Gunn's performance, and that was only because it trended on Twitter, and not for good reasons. Here is Raygun competing against another female in a breakdancing competition. This was the performance that elevated her over the other breakdancer to compete on the Olympics team. Neither one of them are particularly good. I must also laugh at the posing, which reminds me of...
It's Grandmaster B.
Apparently, Raygun's performance was so bad that they are now reconsidering having breakdancing as an Olympic sport. And for that, I thank her. And the breakdancing world should probably thank her as well. Breakdancing is a street activity, and nothing kills the culture of a street activity more than making it an Olympic sport. In my view, breakdancing is performance art, not a sport, and has no business in the Olympics. But that's just me. Whatever the case, it didn't take long for people to point out that she had earned a PhD in breakdancing, so I naturally had to take a look at her dissertation. And, oh boy. Hello out there. I am trying to get through.
With cold, blunt analysis cradled in the warmth of reasoning, it's time for Johnny Walker Dredd to straighten you out on a thing or two. Emanating all the way from exciting Las Vegas, Oklahoma, it's time for the Johnny Walker Dredd Show.
Deterritorializing gender in Sydney's breakdancing scene. A B-girl's experience of B-boying. I'm just going to read the abstract for now, and then see what the response is like before diving any further. Here goes.
This thesis critically interrogates how masculinist practices of breakdancing offers a site for the transgression of gender norms.
First of all, why interrogates? I get that interrogates implies critical questioning, which means the adverb critically isn't really needed here, but why not just say analyzes or examines? Again, the social sciences are all about infusing sophisticated lingo into prose. I object to using the word site for this purpose. When I hear the word site, I immediately conjure a physical location. Perhaps vehicle would have been better. In the mind of Raygun and her ilk, gendered norms are inherently bad. And if you think, well, there are certain gender norms that serve a beneficial purpose, then you are definitely not the audience for her scholarship. And so anything that transgresses, that is, impedes, gendered norms should be a good thing. Given that, I'm not sure how masculinist practices offers a site for doing this. I would think that masculinist practices would only reinforce, not transgress, gendered norms. So I'm confused already, and we just read the first line. So why are there so few female participants at breakdancing? Most likely because it began in the streets. And street stuff is almost always going to be male-dominated. Think of rap. It took a while for females to enter the rap scene. Lowrider competitions, male-dominated. Males typically invent these endeavors, and so males comprise most of the early scene. It then gets looked upon as a masculine activity because masculinity is going to be the goal of just about any red-blooded American male. At some point, a few females enter the fray and help break the barriers for other women. This happens all the freaking time. But Raygun treats it as an anomaly. Okay, we go on.
Drawing on my own experiences.
Oh no. Oh no. This dissertation is going to be an autobiography. An autoethnography to be more precise. More on that in a second.
As a female within the male-dominated breakdancing scene in Sydney, first as a spectator, then as an active crew member, this thesis questions why so few female participants engage in this creative space, and how breakdancing might be a space to displace and deterritorialize gender.
Deterritorializing is just a fancy word to describe the practice of making females more willing and comfortable engaging in a male-dominated activity. Think of inclusivity, and therefore blurring the distinctions between males and females as far as participation is concerned. In other words, if you see more female pilots, you tend to not stereotype pilots as always male, which makes it easier for females to enter the aviation industry. This is hardly rocket science.
I use analytic autoethnography.
Oh boy. If you see a paper that mentions autoethnography, do yourself a big favor and just drop it in the trash. Put it in file 13. Well, unless the paper mentions something like, we decided against autoethnography because we have a responsibility to engage in meaningful research. I've encountered this term in the past while refereeing engineering education manuscript submissions. Wow. And I have rejected every single one of those papers. But what does it mean? This is from a book titled The Essentials of Autoethnography, published by the American Psychological Association. It reads,
Autoethnography is an autobiographical genre of academic writing that draws on and analyzes or interprets the lived experience of the author and connects researcher insights to self-identity, cultural rules and resources, communication practices, traditions, premises, symbols, rules, shared meanings, emotions, values, and larger social, cultural, and political issues. Autoethnography is a qualitative research method that, one, uses a researcher's personal experience to describe and critique cultural beliefs, practices, and experiences, acknowledges and values a researcher's relationships with others, uses deep and careful self-reflection, typically referred to as reflexivity, to name and interrogate the intersections between self and society, the particular and the general, the personal and the political, shows people in the process of figuring out what to do, how to live, and the meaning of their struggles, balances intellectual and methodological rigor, emotion, and creativity, and 6,
listen to this,
strives for social justice and to make life better.
Of course, this is all anathema to the scientific method. First of all, you have a sample size of 1, because this is a self-reflection of the author's own emotions and experiences. And this person is going to be inherently biased toward results that, guess what, promote social justice. Research methods should strive for the truth, not social justice. For example, AE, that's what I'm going to call it from here on, conducted by someone like Benjamin Crump or Rashad Ritchie, would have cops gunning down legions of black males because of racism. Because that's the reality that they have conjured based on their own experiences. They wouldn't be able to come to a conclusion that cops treat all races fairly, because that would violate the tenets of social justice. And their own inherent biases wouldn't allow for it anyway. As my friend PhD investigator mentioned to me, AE offers no tangible means of replication and, of course, rejection. Because AE relies on the author's personal experiences, the only way to counter a claim by an autoethnographer is to call him deluded or a liar. For example, I first encountered racism when the owner of a candy store told me that they didn't serve black kids. She also mentions interviews. Out of curiosity, I went looking for the interview questions, which social science doctoral candidates love to include in a special appendix. Details of interviews and interview participants would contain the interview questions. Yeah, well, you. I'm not going to tell you what I asked them. If there is one thing you have to understand about this type of social work, they will never engage with any practice that opens them up for criticism, which is why there are no interview questions in her dissertation. So you have no way of knowing what her interviewees were asked, and therefore no way of knowing if her conclusions are accurate. By the way, the final sections and appendices are a real hoot. We have discography and videography appendices. But this is a manuscript that has no audio or video. And other than showcasing the students' favorite songs, of what possible use is this to the reading audience? Appendix A is a list of breaking events that she attended, and Appendix B is a list of breaking workshops that she has taken. I think she means completed. I mean, who cares? Are we writing a research dissertation or submitting a job application? My favorite is Appendix D, the glossary, where I learned that a battle is a formalized or spontaneous competition between two parties. Yep, that's what a battle is, all right. We also learned that a beef is a disagreement. The glossary defines breakdancer and breakdancing, which I'm not sure was really necessary. And did you know that dope means cool? In case you were ever given props for a performance, well, the glossary tells you that that means acknowledgement or recognition. And if you ever hear any of them saying that was whack, well, it's good to know that you know where you can go to learn that that means bad. We'll skip ahead just a bit.
I conceptualize the breaking body as not a body constituted through regulations and assumptions, but as an assemblage open to new rhizomatic connections.
Keep in mind, we're talking about the actual human body here. So we're talking about regulations and assumptions about the human body, which she considers an assemblage open to new rhizomatic connections. Rhizomes are parts of a plant. Well, okay.
Breaking is a space that embraces difference, whereby the rituals of the dance not only augment its capacity to deterritorialize the body, but also facilitate new possibilities for performativities beyond the confines of dominant modes of thought and normative gender construction.
Deterritorializes the body, a fancy way of saying that males will not focus on the sexy parts of female breakdancers because they'll be focused more on the dance routines and all of the other showmanship that goes along with it. That's the rituals of the dance. The fact that most of the female breakdancers I've seen wear androgynous, baggy clothing helps in this regard. Most of those I've seen are not exactly real shapely anyway. I have no idea why she's using the noun performativities here. All of the uses I've seen of this word refer to language. A performativity refers to verbal statements that effect action based on their utterance.
I declare bankruptcy!
Michael Scott thought his declaration of bankruptcy was performative. Oscar, his accountant, had to correct him and tell him that simply yelling, "I declare bankruptcy," doesn't really do anything. Certainly not from a legal standpoint. We move on.
Consequently, this thesis attempts to contribute to what I perceive as a significant gap in scholarship on hip-hop, breakdancing, and autoethnographic explorations of Deleuze's Guattarian theory.
Raygun mentions this gap in scholarship about breakdancing. But is this issue so novel to be worth a PhD? I mean, auto racing is more male-dominated than breakdancing, but I don't see too many investing 5 years of study on examining why. Generally, women are supported in auto racing by the sanctioning bodies and a few of the other drivers, but there are certainly a lot of fans and drivers that don't want them there. I don't see that level of begrudgment among breakdancing fans and b-boys, so perhaps Raygun is fretting over a problem of little consequence. I mean, who cares? If the female breakdancing population all of a sudden exploded, how would that affect society in any meaningful way? There doesn't seem to be any money in it. You don't get hired based on your skill in breakdancing. What is the wider problem that Raygun is trying to solve? I think Raygun's real criticism of the breakdancing scene is that audiences tend to look at female breakdancers, B-girls, as something of a novelty. They're supportive of females breaking. They'll gather around and hoot and holler when a girl gets on the dance floor and struts her stuff. But everyone nonetheless conjures a male whenever they hear of breakdancing, and so females are considered a curiosity. That obviously bothers Rachel, but I wouldn't give her a PhD just because she voiced her sensitivities about it in writing. All right, I've read snippets of the rest, and it's pretty bad. Pretty much every sentence in her dissertation reads like her abstract. My question is, do they actually talk like that? What's wrong with just using plain language? So if you want to waste your time reading a 300-page essay on a relatively unimportant street dance, and I mean beyond the time you wasted watching this video, well, be my guest. Like my video, subscribe to my channel.